What's up everybody, this is Nick from Sweet Studios. So today, in anticipation of some upcoming tour dates for my band Till The End, we decided we wanted to put together a super compact in-ear monitoring rig for the band. Now this whole system is going to be based around this PreSonus Studio Live 16R digital rack mixer right here. We have 16 analog inputs, we have 6 separate mix outputs, all of that in 1 U of rack space, which is going to help keep this system very small and compact. Now for our wireless units, we went with these Audio-Technica 3000 series units here. I believe it's the ATW3255 is the model number. Really cool wireless unit. Unlike some of the other like Sennheiser and Shure units that are separated into frequency bands, these basically cover the entirety of the available UHF. I think it's from 470 to 608. So any frequencies in between there are available to this unit. Also a really cool feature is the ability to scan and have a visual representation of which frequencies are more crowded, less crowded. Just gives you a lot of options for picking unused frequencies in the spectrum. All right, next up we have our trusty TrackRig here from Loop Community. I've talked about this in another video, but this is essentially just an audio interface that is designed specifically for running backing tracks. There's no analog inputs on it like you would see on a traditional audio interface. It just has outputs, and it's designed to take your tracks from Ableton or wherever you're running your tracks from and spit them out as analog audio on the front here. Now, running the 16R here, that can also function as an audio interface, so you might ask why go with a separate audio interface. A, redundancy. If something were to happen with the TrackRig, we can still run our stuff through the 16R. But really the reason boils down to we want to have all of our outputs on the front side of the rack to go into our splitter here. Also, I didn't want to dedicate any of the outputs of the 16R to sending anything out to front of house. I want to keep all of the outputs available for our in-ear feeds. All right, speaking of our splitter, we have to have a way for our instruments, backing tracks, whatever, to go to our in-ear monitors, but also split off and go to front of house for them to mix everything for the audience. So right here we have the ART S8 three-way splitter. This is basically 8 channels, so you got 8 inputs, and then each one of those inputs is going to have 3 different splits or outputs. So there's a direct output on the front, which we are then going to route to our 16R for our in-ears. And then on the back side, you have, per channel, you have 2 outputs as well. We're only going to be utilizing one of those. One of each is going to go out to our snake to the front of house split, and then go to them for them to mix the front of house sound. All right, so the last couple of components here, we got a basic Furman power conditioner that we're going to use to power all of our equipment. And then just a little Shure antenna relocation panel, so we don't have to have the wireless antennas inside of the back of the rack. We can actually put this on the outside where they're going to get, you know, actual line of sight with us with the body packs. All right, now all of this gear is going to be going into this tiny little 4U rack here. This is the SKB Fly Rack. It's a small, lightweight, injection molded rack here, and that goes inside of a hard case. It's like a Pelican style case from SKB. Lots of foam protection and padding in there, so once you put it in and close it up, it can't rattle around and bang. It's nicely protected. Now, if you're counting along at home, you might be thinking to yourself, you've just talked about 6U worth of gear, and you've only got a 4U rack. Yes, that's right, we're going to be stuffing 6U worth of equipment into a 4U rack. So obviously, we're going to have some things on the back side. We're going to have 4 on the front, 2 on the back. Now, I drew out a plan of where I want everything to be in Photoshop. Obviously, as we start putting this thing together, we might have issues with clearances we need to address, so things might need to change as far as the order goes, but like the signal path on our map should remain the same. It's just a matter of where the units are located inside of the rack. All right, so there's all the major components. Let's stop talking and start building. All right, I just wanted to take a minute here to thank our friends over at Sweetwater, specifically my dude Ivan over there. Always looking out for me, always getting me the best deals possible on everything I need. Anytime I have a project going on, I build something for the band or the studio, that's always going to be one of my first points of contact. throw some ideas around, get some suggestions on gear. He's always got some good insights on stuff like that. Matter of fact, he's the one that suggested these Audio-Technica wireless units for this build. I was originally eyeing something different, and as we were talking, he asked me if I'd seen these. We kind of talked over the features and everything, and looked like those were going to be the best option for us, so that's the way we went. Now, this is not a paid endorsement. Sweetwater is not giving me any money to say nice things about them. I've just been using them for years, and I've never been anything other than satisfied with everything they offer, from the selection, product quality, customer service, you name it. Where back in the day, I might have hopped in my car and driven to Guitar Center or something like that when I needed something. These days, I'm going to get on the computer and go to Sweetwater, because 9 times out of 10, they're going to have everything I need. Plus, I'm going to get a little bag of candy when I get my order, so, you know, bonus there. Again, not a paid endorsement, just love the company, so if you have any music-related needs, head on over to sweetwater.com, and they'll take really good care of you. All right, on the mock-up, we ran into our first issue with clearance, so I had to swap the position of the splitter and the TrackRig, because when I put the power conditioner in on the other side, the depth of the TrackRig and the depth of the power conditioner only left about an inch or so in between the two units. So being able to plug wall warts and stuff in there, as well as be able to get to the connections on the back side of the TrackRig, wasn't going to work. The splitter is much shallower in depth, so we're going to put the splitter on the bottom along with the power conditioner, TrackRig in the middle. So we'll have to do a little bit of work getting you know, cables and stuff situated. But this should work pretty good. All right, we're going to do the easy wiring first before we start making our custom cables for the front side. So for our mixes coming out of the 16R going into the wireless, we just have these 90-degree TRS to XLR. All right, and there's our hookup for our audio coming out of the mixer into the wireless units. Next up, we got to get our antenna hookups. So like I said, we don't want to have the antennas buried inside of the rack, so we have that external mounting plate. So we got to hook up these BNC cables to extend it out. And that's our wireless units hooked up. All right, so I've done some cable management with the power, run all that stuff and tied it up. Now we're just pulling the XLR tails through, because I can't get them hooked up from the other side with everything in. All right, all of our permanent wiring inside the back of the rack is now done. We have our XLR tails coming out from the splitter. We have our cables going from the mixer to the wireless units for our in-ear mixes. And all of our power is tied in nice and neat. Everything's cable managed. Outside of that, everything is now done. The only thing left to do is do all of the cabling on the front side. All right, after a 4-day power outage, it is finally time to start building some cables. Now, with the exception of the 2 guitar inputs and the 3 vocal mics, everything else on the front panel here is going to be permanently wired in. We're not going to be plugging in and unplugging any of that stuff once it's set up. So since it's going to be permanently installed, it's going to be in the case, I needed to find a really compact and low profile solution for the XLR connectors. Straight connectors weren't going to work because it wouldn't fit in the case. Your typical 90-degree XLR connectors, those weren't going to work either, because the legs on the 90 are typically too long to have this many in such a congested area and have them fit right. So I took a cue from the build that Fluff from Riffs, Beards, and Gear did when he built an in-ear monitor system based on the 16R. I found the connectors he used, and I think they're gonna work awesome with this. I already wired one up here just to kind of get a feel for how the connectors work, but now we gotta build 12 more, so let's jump right into it. All right, everything is built and up and running, so I just want to take a few minutes to run you through the signal flow of everything going through the rig. Seems like there's a lot going on, but honestly it's pretty simple. First, we're going to start off with the things that we will not be sharing with front of house. First and foremost, the drums. The drums will be mic'd traditionally and sent to front of house. We will not be taking a feed off of that, however. The way we're going to hear our drums is through our drummer's Yamaha EAD10 drum module. Just a little unit clips to the kick drum. There's a trigger that picks up the kick and a stereo pair of microphones inside of there that picks up the rest of the kit. We mix that to our liking, send a stereo signal into the 16R that we will hear in our ears. Front of house will be getting their signal through the traditional drum mics. Now we'll also have a pair of ambient room / crowd mics at the front of stage. One of the bigger complaints you hear with people when they switch to in-ears is that they feel disconnected. It's too sterile. They can't really hear what the crowd is doing. So one of the ways to combat that is to have some microphones facing out to pick up that crowd noise and just the sound of the room in general. Again, that'll be going to our in-ears, but not to front of house. Additionally, we're going to have our click and cue tracks coming out of Ableton into the TrackRig here, and then that's going to be sent into the 16R for us to hear, again, not going to front of house. Now, one miscellaneous thing that I forgot to mention, we do have a dedicated input on the front of the 16R to take a signal from front of house for them to be able to talk to us. Particularly during sound check, like stage right guitar, stage left guitar, whatever. Just gives them a way to talk to us and we'll hear it in our ears. All right, all of the stuff that is going to be shared between front of house and our in-ears are running through this ART S8 three-way splitter here. We'll start with our backing tracks and our bass tracks. We don't have a live bass player. I record all the bass stuff in the studio, but when we play live, I play rhythm guitar. So our backing tracks, we have a stereo pair of backing tracks, and our bass track run from Ableton into the TrackRig and then into the splitter. Now we are also directly plugging in some things when we play live. So we have two guitar inputs. I'm running a Kemper. Costas, our other guitar player, is running a Tonex. Those plug directly into the splitter, as well as our 3 vocal mics. So what's being shared between us and front of house is bass, 2 guitars, 3 vocal mics, and a stereo pair of backing tracks. All right, the outputs of the 16R then feed our 2 Audio-Technica wireless units here, get sent to the body packs that we then hear in our ears. Myself, our guitar player Costas, and our singer Anthony are all going to be on wireless. We decided we wanted to keep our drummer Martin wired, specifically because if our wireless happens to drop out, we can always follow along to the drums. But if his wireless were to go out, we're kind of flying blind at that point. Yes, we could keep playing, but tempo could change slightly and get off track with the backing tracks, and then you got a mess on your hands. So for his, we got a stereo signal coming out into this Behringer P2. He clips that onto his belt, and now he's got a rock solid signal coming out of the mixer that's not going to drop out. All right, now on to the real beauty of a system like this. Right here we have a small wireless router. This plugs into the 16R. And what that allows us to do is each individual member of the band, either through your phone or a tablet, we can open up an app and we can adjust our own individual in-ear mix. So each member of the band can have a completely customized in-ear mix the way they want to hear it. And if anything changes mid-set, rather than having to try to signal the sound guy, sign language me up, we don't have to do that anymore. You just open up the app and adjust it right on the fly. Couldn't be simpler. No matter where you go on the stage, you're always going to have your same mix rather than with traditional floor monitors, where I go stage left from stage right. Now I'm hearing someone else's mix. So awesome way to have a customized mix that's in your ears anywhere you go on the stage. All right, so there you go, a super compact in-ear monitoring rig for the band. I will leave links in the description below to everything I used in this build here, as well as the drawing that I made. If you want to look at my signal flow a little bit more in depth, all that stuff will be included below. Once again, I'd like to thank Sweetwater, as well as Fluff from Riffs, Beards, and Gear. The build he did a few years back on his channel based on the 16R was kind of the inspiration for this one. Even though I went even smaller and more compact than what he had built, that build was the genesis of the idea of this one. I just wanted to push the limits a little bit further. He built a 6U rack, and we went down to 4. I think it's working out really well so far, and we'll see how it goes when we get it out on the road, but for now, I think it turned out really well. Once again, links to everything in the description below. I've got music to mix, I've got tour dates to plan, so we will catch you guys on the next one.